Okay, it's Worship Wednesday. We got some questions in. We're going to answer the first one today. This is a really good question. Someone asked, did you ever have a time in your life where you doubted you were supposed to be a worship leader? Now, at first I thought maybe that wasn't a great question to talk about because I thought, well, how can that be helpful or instructive for worship leaders? But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, there's a pretty cool lesson here. So first off, the answer is no. I've never really doubted I was supposed to be a worship leader. In fact, my story's a little bit the opposite, where I resisted being a worship leader as a young man. I think I knew pretty young that that's what I was supposed to do, and I tried to stay away from it. I really wanted to be a singer-songwriter. I wanted to be an artist. I liked bands like the Lemonheads or Vigilantes of Love or Rich Mullins, and I thought that I was going to have a life where I would stand on a stage and thousands of people would sit and listen to me, that I would be an instigator and I would speak about truth and that everyone would sit around and listen to me. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to do concerts. I wanted to tell stories and play all my own songs, which is kind of the total opposite of worship leading. But what would happen is, as I started to do that and to pursue the singer-songwriter thing, I would play a lot of church things. And inevitably, people at those things would be like, hey, could you also lead some songs for us to sing together? And so I would do that. What would happen is that the singer-songwriter stuff, the concert stuff, would go okay. But the worship leading always went way better. And I think Kristen and I were married. We may have been dating, but she was singing with me. We're probably engaged. And so she would go and sing with me. And at one point she said, listen, you're a totally different person when you lead worship. You're just completely relaxed. You're present. You're not nervous. You're not anxious. That feels like home for you. And she was right. For me, it was a moment of, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so once I kind of had that burden off of me of trying to be the next Rich Mullins, I really dove headlong into leading worship. There is a sense of purpose when you find the thing you're supposed to be doing. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be perfect at worship leading immediately, or you're going to be perfect in ministry. No, there are going to be struggles and you're going to have to get good at it. You're going to have to learn how to do it. But I do think that you will be gifted in the thing you're supposed to do. And I think that will evidence itself pretty early on. Worship leaders need to realize that sense of purpose and gifting for two reasons. First of all, it's what sustains you when you're in a hard season. So having worked in church as long as I have, having been in ministry, one of the things that's been so helpful for me that when things are difficult is that when I lead worship, there's still that sense of purpose and calm and giftedness. And that's a real solid foundation for me. That even when things are crazy and I feel like maybe I'm not up to the task in ministry, that when I do the thing I'm called to do, that helps me and encourages me like, no. God put me here. God called me to do this thing. You should feel at home in ministry. The ministry you're supposed to be in should feel like home for you. It should feel very solid for you. So that's the first reason you need to know it. The second reason you need to know it is to know whether or not you're in the right spot. And that's difficult. That's hard to know sometimes. But sometimes we get into ministry stuff and it's not exactly our gifting. That doesn't mean we have to quit and change immediately, but just knowing yourself and just sort of knowing the challenges that you have in whatever ministry can be very helpful. So I know, for example, that my worship leading gifting, I know that gifting. And so having done it long enough that when something comes at me that's outside of that, I'm now old enough and maybe a little bit wise enough to know, okay, this is not going to be my skill set. I either need to work really hard on what this new thing is, or I need to get some help on it. And so just recognizing, okay, what is my gifting? What is my thing? Where am I most at home in ministry? And it doesn't mean you'll never have doubts. That does happen, I guess, but it never happened for me because I think it was so clear that's what I was supposed to do. it has been a great gift that God's given me to do this because it's fun. It's fun to be a worship leader. So no, I've never had any doubts. And I think if you're in the place where God wants you, you might have small doubts, but I don't think you'll ever really go, oh, I don't even know if I'm supposed to be doing this.